Búscame, dice. Bueno, pues vamos a ver, porque este es el final, chicos. Se supone. Este sí que puede ser que sea el final, jóvenes. Va a quedar ahí algo... Di su nombre. Hades, señor de muchos, concédeme una audiencia. Nergal el fiero, concédeme una audiencia. Osiris, señor del silencio, concédeme. Plutón. Queda muy poco, sí, queda muy poco, sí señor. Plutón, señor de las riquezas, concédeme una audiencia. What? Ah, tío, es que va por... Claro, claro. Era Plutón, Hades... Y ahora son egipcios. Es verdad. Claro, tú fíjate. Los templos van cambiando. Ostras, qué puntazo, tío. Osiris. Y ahora vienen los sumerios. Por aquí. Necheval. Desde fuera el templo no me parecía tan largo. Nergal. What the fuck? ¡Oh! Esto sí que ya... Espera, tío, que son alienígenas. ¡Flipante! ¡Ostras! Estoy alucinando, tío, ahora mismo. Mira, chaval, qué locura. Por fin nos vemos.
And here you are. Allow me to introduce myself. As you have already gathered, I've been known by many names. Nergal to the Sumerians, Osiris to the Egyptians, Hades to the Greeks, and Pluto to the Romans.
Madre, qué locurón.
But the one constant through it all has been my title, God of the Underworld. And I've been watching you with curiosity, mortal, ever since your arrival. You're unlike the others, aren't you? And what is more, you carry a weapon that was never intended for mortals to wield. And you do it so gracefully. But there will be time for your reckoning later. First, as a reward for undoing the desecration of my obelisk, I will allow you to satisfy your curiosity. Ask what you will.
Vaya locurón. ¿Cuál es tu historia?
My story is many thousands of years long. You will need to be more specific. What do you wish to know? It is a matter of perspective. God is a label I was given by mortals, not one I gave myself. Your ancestors revered me because to them, my knowledge and technology made me incomprehensibly powerful, just as you might seem so to an insect. But despite all that, there are rules even I must obey. My kin and I all adopted this form long ago, so that we might better understand and communicate with your kind.
Mi gente y yo.
In time, we grew fond of the sensory delights it affords. Desire, joy, ecstasy, even rage and sorrow, while an acquired taste can be addictive. No. Long ago, I swore to Persephone that I would remain in this form for as long as we remained among your kind. I must honor that. This is my beloved. Like me, she has been known by many names. Ereshkigal to the Sumerians, Isis to the Egyptians, Persephone to the Greeks, and Proserpina to the Romans. Or perhaps you might know her as the goddess of springtime, the cycle of life and renewal.
No puedes saberlo. No puedes saber nada de los...
Your gaze lingers too long. That is my servant. You would have met by the river, though she wears many faces and goes by many names. Kumutubal to the Sumerians, Kirti to the Egyptians, Charon to the Greeks, and Charon to the Romans. Her role is to ferry souls between the mortal world and this one, and to make their transition as seamless as possible. For that, she earned herself the infamous, if erroneous, moniker, the Ferryman. You will talk more later. For now, ask your questions. As you wish. It has come to be known simply as the Underworld, and it exists
Por una apuesta que hice hace mucho tiempo. ¿Cuál fue la apuesta que hiciste?
That is a long story, one that began over 3,000 years ago and continues to this day. You see, long ago my kin and I set out from our home on Elysium to search for other forms of life among the stars. We discovered your planet and witnessed your kind evolving from primates into something lawless and barbaric. You all but destroyed yourselves, your 2 short lives being extinguished by violence and ignorance and disease. Yet Proserpina saw raw potential in you, and persuaded the rest of us it would be squandered without our intervention and stewardship. So we revealed ourselves to your people in a place called Sumer. We offered guidance in agriculture, toolcraft, and law, and you called us gods. For a time you flourished, but soon you were too many for us to oversee. And as you spread from that cradle of civilization, we saw something disturbing. We had sown the seeds of dependency and confusion, and soon you returned to your old ways of violence and ignorance, this time in our name. My kin had seen enough, and gave up on your kind, condemning you as barbaric and chaotic, scarcely more than animals. We began preparations to return to Elysium, our home world, a utopia unspoilt by conflict and unimaginable in its beauty. But my Proserpina could not bear to abandon your kind without guidance, and knowing it would force the rest of us to leave her behind, she made an extraordinary sacrifice. She gave up her immortality to descend permanently to the ranks of humankind. And so she began her inescapable trajectory toward death. Horrified, I acted swiftly. I placed her in suspended animation in a deep frozen sleep to prevent age and sickness from claiming her. And then I pleaded with Proserpina's father, who the Romans called Jupiter, to bring her with us to Elysium. It was and is my hope that once there, we might one day learn to undo what she has done to herself. But he refused. I did everything I could to persuade him, but he would not relent. He would rigidly uphold his final pronouncement. Humans were unworthy of ascension to Elysium, and no exceptions would be made. But seeing that I was aggrieved, he proposed a wager, the terms of which were as follows. If even one human city could prove itself capable of living without sin for a single
Durante
year,
un año.
then Proserpina and all of humanity would be permitted to join us in Elysium. My part would be to remain behind, the last of my kind, to watch over you, without interfering, and to
Un año
sit
entero.
in silent judgment. And so my reward has been to languish here, enduring a 3,000-year winter, waiting for the day your kind proves itself
Un año
worthy,
entero, tío.
so that I might take her with me to Elysium and unthaw my goddess of springtime. And here I am, after all this time,
3000 años han
still
pasado.
waiting.
Tienes tu gente.
There were also gods who, like me, have been known by many names, but perhaps you knew them by their Roman names. Our leader, Jupiter, as well as Neptune, Saturn, Juno, Minerva, Mars, Venus, Apollo, Diana, Vulcan, Vesta, Ceres, and of course, my beloved Persephone. As the first wave of your kind arrived from Sumer, I had them build a city in their own fashion, so that they might be comfortable and recreate their lives here. I had them build the entrance as a vertical shaft leading to baths, to cleanse them of the sins of their former lives, and to prevent escape. I watched wave after wave of Sumerians arrive, and as their civilization declined over the centuries, they were replaced by Egyptians. Of course, believing themselves to be the superior civilization, the Egyptians promptly built over what had been built before, and made all the same mistakes. After another 1,000 years, the Greeks began to arrive, and then the Romans, and they all did the same thing. They built upon the underworlds of their predecessors, renamed their gods, and ensured their foundations were forgotten.
Puntazo, macho.
To ensure the wager was fair, it was important that my subjects were chosen at random. To this end, I had my servant distribute 1,000 tokens fashioned from silver, a rare element at the time, across all.
Es lo que hizo Caronte.
Whoever died while in possession of one of them would be located by my servant and ferried to this place, with no memory of how they arrived. As the tokens were discovered, they were traded, smelted, and fashioned into trinkets, and eventually coins, spreading to Egypt like seeds on the wind. Later, when they spread to Greece, they would come to be known as Charon's obol, or as coins for the ferryman. Some placed coins in the mouths of their dead, hoping they would awaken here, though they had no way of knowing which coins were fashioned from the original tokens. In fact, almost all of the tokens are accounted for. Only 2 remain. And so after this wave destroys itself, as it is destined to do, your kind would have squandered the last of its potential to ascend beyond this rock, and Persepone's along with it.
¿Cómo se enteraron los humanos de la existencia del inframundo?
It is a regrettable story. One of the first men who came to this place was a king of Sumer, and a troublemaker. To be rid of him, I returned him to his people, on the condition that my servant erased his memories of this place. But the erasure did not take completely, and he told stories of this place as if describing memories of a dream. His tales were committed to writing, which came to be known as the Epic of Gilgamesh, and these words were twisted and distorted over generations. Later, the Egyptians would adapt Sumer's stories of the underworld, making them wildly intricate and labyrinthine. Their Book of the Dead and Book of Gates bore less and less resemblance to this place, in their priests' pursuit of profit. Then, when the Greeks began to arrive, they proved far more cunning. In a series of incidents that will not be repeated,
uno de ellos sigue estando fuera.
A warrior named Heracles, 2 kings named Sisyphus and Theseus, a poet named Orpheus, and a Trojan named Aeneas. They each told embellished tales of this place, how to get here, and how to escape. And so from Sumer to Egypt, Greece to Rome, your kind has always told each other stories about this place, though each story contained only a seed of truth.
Vamos a hablar de otra cosa.
Of course.
Tú eres el responsable de la regla de oro.
That is merely the name your people have given to it, but yes, it is my doing.
¿Por qué convertir a la gente en oro?
That is a story dating back to the very first wave. After the Sumerians finished building their city, the self-declared ruler threw a banquet to celebrate. Now this man was unmarried, and many women were vying to become his wife, a prestigious position of power and influence in a new world. Of all the women, 2 were particularly ambitious. Both were beautiful, and both arrived at the banquet wearing eye-catching dresses and painted faces. their hair woven in elaborate fashion. The first woman, recognizing that she would require an advantage to win the ruler's affection, draped herself in jewelry, ornate necklaces, bracelets, and rings fashioned from gold. Seeing this ostentatious display, the second woman grew envious, for she had no such jewelry at her disposal. She prayed aloud to any gods that would listen to cover her in gold. And when her prayer went unanswered, she took matters into her own hands. While the others indulged at the banquet, the second woman summoned the first for a discussion in a quiet place. She checked that nobody was watching, and pushed her rival from the top of the ziggurat where she broke her neck on the rocks below. But I was watching, and I decided to answer her prayer. I took the golden bow left behind by Diana, and I shot that woman in the heart, covering her from head to toe in a layer of molten gold. And I left her to stand there, that she might serve as a grim reminder of what befalls those who sin in my domain. But that was not enough, for the entire city was tainted by her sin, and the wager could no longer...
Claro, ya no podía ganarse la apuesta.
So I had no choice but to wipe the slate clean. I gilded them all, to make way for a new way.
Horrible.
And began the wager again. And to this day, each of them, and all who came after, line the halls of this city, inanimate,
Conscientes. Horrible.
suspended in time with only their sight and hearing preserved, so they may bear witness to and lament the folly of your kind for eternity, the silent golden sentinels.
Horrible. Así que eres el responsable de destrozar todas estas
I
vidas.
give your kind a second chance at life, as well as ample warning about my law. And when you disobey, and you always disobey, you force my hand, bringing terrible suffering upon yourselves. And so you ask if I am the one destroying your lives. And I say, no, you destroy yourselves. I am merely the means by which you do it. When my kin departed, they left behind many relics which I inherited. A consolation prize of sorts. The golden bow originally belonged to one of my kin, who the Romans called Diana. As my collection of golden statues grew, I chose the most ferocious among them, and equipped them each with a duplicate of her bow, and tasked them with hunting down the Forsaken at my behest. They became known simply as Furies.
Consideras un pecado.
I've always considered that the cornerstone of morality is the ability to determine right from wrong on one's own. No attempt to lay out rules like your Code of Hammurabi or your 12 Tables of the Roman Republic can ever cover all possible scenarios. This should come as no surprise to you, since the core principle has been expressed in many forms by many of your civilizations. The Egyptians made a rudimentary attempt with do to the doer to make him do. The Greeks refined it with avoid doing what you would blame others for doing. The Roman Stoics added, treat your inferior as you would wish your superior to treat you. Even the so-called cultists hiding among you often say, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It is the simplest of concepts, and each one of you is born with the faculties required to apply to any situation. Yet none of the peoples who expressed this rule were able to uphold it. Curious, is it not?
Lie. Siempre he vivido... Lie, mentira. Lie, mentira. Ese principio no es tan fácil de aplicar como parece. Parece que tú tampoco lo has defendido mucho.
For you, perhaps.
Para ti, quizás. ¿Cómo se sabe cuando alguien está pecando?
I am able to commune with all of the statues in the city. Their ears are my ears, and their eyes are my eyes.
¿Proserpina está conectada con las estatuas de la misma forma?
If she was still conscious, I suppose she could, but she's not. Why do you ask?
Por nada.
Then what an odd question.
He visto cosas terribles que no consideraste pecado. ¿Por qué dejaste que
Do you
ocurriera?
plan to speak in sweeping generalizations, or are you going to give me an example?
Suicidio.
I have seen no such thing, but in any case, taking one's own life is a self-directed act. It is not one that is done to others, however they may be affected by it. Therefore, it cannot be said that one who commits suicide has done anything unto others.
Eso me parece una forma extremadamente literal de interpretar la regla.
Applying this rule always requires us to interpret the meaning of the words. A literal interpretation helps to minimize the ambiguities of your primitive language.
Si nuestra lengua está llena de ambigüedades, ¿no significa eso que la regla es inherentemente subjetiva y poco fiable?
Supposing you are right, then my law has been broken, and I should turn you all to gold immediately.
No, eso no es lo que estoy
Is that
diciendo.
what you want?
No, por supuesto que no, no importa.
Now tell me, what other sins do you believe I have overlooked?
Servidor, no me extraña que la gente diga que los dioses son crueles. Esto solo demuestra lo poco fiable es.
You speak of the moneylender. How is that inconsistent with the rule?
No querría estar atado de pies y manos un contrato de trabajo de 30 años por culpa de un préstamo.
And he would never have signed a contract pledging his labor for 30 years. All he did was enforce the terms of a contract signed voluntarily.
Otros firmaron de forma voluntaria, sí, eso es verdad. Todo ese concepto de servidumbre es igual que la esclavitud, no es ético. El lugar de donde vengo es ilegal, de acuerdo con las leyes internacionales.
Ignoring your irritating sense of moral superiority. This is interesting. I'm curious, how do people escape
Gente de la
poverty?
pobreza. Es habitual pedir un préstamo para comprar una casa y en algunos lugares para pagar por tus estudios.
I see. And how long might it take such a person to repay their debt?
Depende, normalmente décadas, a veces toda una vida.
I fail to
No
see
veo-
how your system of loans is significantly different to a debt bondsman signing over his labor for
Es lo
30
mismo.
years.
Me parece.
Now tell me, what other sins do you believe I have overlooked?
¿Experimentas en las estatuas
The
doradas?
midwife in the palace, yes. How is that inconsistent with the rule?
Dudo que quisiera que experimentaran con ella si estuviera bañada en oro.
The rule is do unto others, meaning other people. Those statues are something else now. Bloodless shadows, mere shapes of their
Pero
former
están con vida.
selves. They are forsaken. What happens to them is no concern of mine. Now tell me, what other sins do you believe I have overlooked?
A ver, secuestro.
Abduction? You mean the magistrate imprisoning his daughter in the cistern, I take it. He did so because she sought to escape, a sin I take particularly seriously. Better that he stops her from escaping, albeit brutishly, than I have to wipe out this entire city to punish her. Wouldn't you agree? Now tell me, what other sins do you believe I have overlooked?
Es que
Do you honestly think you could do better?
no, pero a eso me refiero. Nadie tiene una idea tan clara del bien y del mal como para poder confiarle tanto poder. Ostras, tío.
I should strike you down for that.
Y si lo hicieras, me darías la razón. Basta de cháchara. Voy a poner punto y final a esto. Sácala.
Now, did you have any other questions?
¡No! Me darías la razón. Uf. Basta de cháchara, ya. Como si yo con el arco pudiera hacer algo.
Very well.
Muy bien. Yeah.
Good. And now it is time for
Me van a petar el culo.
Only, it seems, something is wrong. It has long been within my power to see into the hearts of mortals and weigh their deeds in life. But when I peer into you, I see only a blank slate, as if you did not exist until you appeared in this city. How is this possible?
Porque vengo del futuro, supongo.
Where did you find this one?
I do not remember ferrying you. How did you come here?
Se te olvidan las cosas con la edad que tienes. Vengo del futuro.
If that is true, then I sense the intervention of someone powerful.
How did you come to be in this time, mortal? Who brought you here?
He cannot know.
No puedes saberlo. Lo hizo Proserpina.
I do not know. My kin departed long ago, and Proserpina slumbered for
No lo puedes
3,000
saber,
years.
vale. No deberías saberlo como el inframundo. Supongo que eso significa que no estás al corriente de todo lo que ocurre en este lugar.
Tread lightly, mortal. Enough of this. It seems I will need to put your reckoning on hold for now. But answer this. Why have you come here? What is it you
Yo lo que
see?
quiero es volver a mi época. Me gustaría ponerle punto final a la regla de oro. Solo quiero salir de aquí. He venido a matarte.
Your hubris is amusing, so I will allow you to make
A
your
ver.
case.
Hay buenas personas.
If you anger
Si me enfadas o me haces
always
perder el tiempo
time
con
with
mentiras o con
lies
argumentos
or
erróneos, tendrás que
wrong-headed
enfrentarte a la
arguments,
muerte.
you face death here. So, tell me, why should I put an end to the so-called golden rule?
Si haces esto por amor, has de saber que Proserpina no te quiere. ¿Cómo pretendes que vivamos sin pecado si ni incluso tú puedes hacerlo? La regla de oro está corrompiendo esta ciudad y asegurándose de que nunca ganes la apuesta.
How so? And be specific. You have made a grave allegation, and I expect you to back it up.
Rufio se ha vuelto tan paranoico que se asusta hasta de las sombras, como de la sexualidad de Virgilio. Mayolo ha llevado a la gente.
He is a volatile and confused fellow, that one. His cruelty does seem to grow greater.
Va creciendo día a día. Son todos los ejemplos que se me ocurren.
Pathetic. You will need to do a lot better than that.
Si haces esto por amor, has de saber que Proserpina no te quiere. ¿Cómo pretendes que vivamos sin pecado?
That is a very serious accusation, mortal. What sin have I committed?
Buah, pues qué pruebas
What
tengo ahí.
evidence do you have to support it?
¿No encontraste tú a Proserpina y la encarcelaste? Has encerrado a la gente en esta ciudad en contra de su voluntad. Has castigado a cientos de personas de manera horrible, y uno solo habían cometido pecados menores o ningún pecado.
Every one of those people was guilty of failing to ensure their peers lived virtuously. They failed collectively, and so they were punished collectively. The Romans understand this, as did the Greeks before them.
De donde provengo, el castigo colectivo se lo considera uno de los crímenes más atroces que existen. Si estuviéramos en el lugar del otro, no querrías que te castigaran por los pecados de los demás.
Ah, but I'm a god, and you are a mortal. Why would you expect me to treat you as I treat my own kind? You are not a peer. You are not a respected equal.
Eso es.
Let me ask you this. Do you treat insects as you
Te
wish to
preocupas
be
por su
treated?
bienestar como te
Do you
preocuparías por el
care
de
for
una
their
persona.
well-being as you would your
Pues
fellow
hombre, yo
man?
no mato a los
Do you
insectos.
ensure they have food and shelter and protection from predators? Do you give them rights?
No.
Of course not, because that would be absurd, just as it would be absurd for me to treat your kind as equals.
Buena observación. ¿Qué hace que seas superior a mí? Los míos y los tuyos no pueden ser tan distintos, dado que te enamoraste de uno de los nuestros.
My love for her does not mean I am not superior, now that she is mortal.
Eso me parece arrogante. Igual no eres tan distinto a los humanos como piensas.
Where to begin? Our lifespans exceed yours by thousands of years, in which time we accumulate vast wisdom and a mastery of technology you cannot begin to imagine.
O sea que no eres inmortal.
It would be most unwise to get ideas about attacking me, because that is the source of our power over you.
Porque esa es la fuente del poder que tenemos sobre vosotros. Buena observación. Así que crees que no tienes por qué tratarnos de forma justa porque eres más fuerte que nosotros, ¿no?
You could say that.
¿Fueron los estoicos romanos los que dijeron eso de trata a tus inferiores como querrías que trataran a los
My
humanos?
kin have no superiors.
¿Pero no decías que Júpiter era tu líder? En tu familia existe una jerarquía.
That is true. Go on.
Entonces, estás tratando a los humanos de la misma forma que te gustaría que Júpiter te tratase a ti.
Make your point, mortal.
Digo que si tú no puedes seguir tus propias normas, ¿cómo esperas que lo hagan los humanos?
Let me ponder that.
Voy a dejarlo un momento.
If you're right,
Entonces, eso quiere decir que todo este tiempo he estado equivocado, pero no. Solo con pensarlo me hierve la sangre.
but no. The very thought of it grieves me. How can I accept your argument when doing so would make me a tyrant and a monster?
Es la verdad. Has cometido atrocidades y te toca pagar por ellas. No eres ningún monstruo. Eres un ser humano y has cometido un error.
Wait, what?
¿De qué hablas?
What are you saying?
Los humanos cometemos errores. Está en nuestra naturaleza. Todos los humanos tienen tendencia a pecar. Todos lo hacemos, tarde o temprano.
You have spoken eloquently, and yet, if what you say is true, it follows that my
Claro, porque
wages
somos imperfectos desde el primer momento. Esa es la idea.
But that would mean Jupiter, Proserpita's father,
Sabía más que tú o
knew
cualquiera.
more about
Propuso
you
una
than
apuesta que nunca
anyone.
podría ganar.
Proposed a
¿Por qué iba a hacer
wager I
algo
could
así?
never win. Why would he do
¿Por qué no quieres que estés con Proserpina? Igual él también cometió un error. Igual quería que abandonases la apuesta para que liberases a Proserpina. Quizás se sentía amenazado por tu presencia y no quería a ningún posible contendiente. Igual quería que abandonases la apuesta para que librases.
Perhaps. But if that was so, surely I would have sensed his deception. How could I have been so blind for so long?
No eres mejor que nosotros, eres un monstruo con influencia. Quizás cuando adoptaste forma humana, también adoptaste debilidades humanas.
Your words sting me, mortal. But perhaps it is
Ostras,
what I
tío,
deserve.
soy un crack.
As difficult as this is to admit,
Yo lo sospechaba hacía tiempo y no
suspected as
puedo
much
seguir
for a
negándolo.
long time now. And I cannot deny it any longer. I've been so
Me he
fixated
obcecado
on
tanto con
taking my
llevar a mi
beloved to
querida
Elysium.
al Ezio que cada vez que
And
uno de
every
vosotros
time one
pecaba
of you
mermaban
sinned,
mis esperanzas de
it
reunirme
wore
con ella de
away my
nuevo.
hope of being with her again. In time, I began to despise your kind for making her believe that you could ever be better than you are. But my rage was not born of malice. Quite the opposite.
De hecho, porque la amaba, claro, si eso estaba
Everything
claro.
I have done,
Por amor.
I did because I loved her. Who knew this empathy of yours, which you celebrate so much, could have such a dark underside? This has gone on too long. It is time for me to let go of this form, of her, of all of you. But know this. If I abandon the wager and leave for Elysium, neither she nor your kind may ever ascend.
No te preocupes. ¿Por qué no podemos ir al Eliseo?
Because doing so would violate the rules of my sacred agreement with Jupiter, and you would receive a hostile reception. The best I can do is return you to the land of the living. I will have Charon make arrangements to ferry the others. But as for you, be aware you will be separated from the rest.
¿Por qué? ¿Por qué?
Once this exodus begins, the events that brought you to this moment will never have taken place, and you will have created a paradox. What will become of you is difficult to predict, but that is the risk you have taken by interfering in the natural flow of time. Now, are you ready?
Todo listo. Vaya tela, macho. Espérate que no sé lo que pasará conmigo. Dígame, por lo menos déjame recordarlo todo.
Farewell, mortal.
Comienza el dios del inframundo para abolir la regla de oro. Toma ya. ¿A dónde voy a volver? Pues se supone que debería volver otra vez al río, ¿no? Canal o algo así, ¿o qué? A ver qué pasa. Este es el último de los finales, evidentemente. Al Worth, míralo. Habla con Al. Ostras, tío.
Oh. Hi there. Gave me a bit of a fright. Thought I was in here alone. I'm Al.
He venido en tu búsqueda.
Well, here I am. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Espero que supieras quién soy.
Know who you are? I barely remember how I got here myself. Oh, did that lady in the forest send you in here after me? I guess I lost track of time, learning about the history of this place, and it is extraordinary. I'm fairly certain you and I are the first people to set foot in this city for about 2,000 years. Fortunately for us, the last person in here was a Roman man named Galerius, who inscribed an account into a tablet. Apparently, there was a community of 20-something people trapped in here, and living in fear of a curse they called the Golden Rule. They believed that if even one person sinned, an unknown god would cast them all into gold, like the 1,000 people who'd lived here before them. Then, one day, just as Galerius had finished praying for a good harvest at the shrine of Proserpina, an oracle appeared and told him how to solve the ills of the city, like saving the life of a dying woman, foiling an assassination attempt, and so on. Meanwhile, the oracle walked up to the temple of the mysterious god, this one right here, and demanded an audience. And the doors just opened up to him. Nobody knows what went on in there, but Galerius wrote the oracle must have been more persuasive than Odysseus, because the next thing he knew, the ground shook and the voice of that god rang out over the city. The many have suffered long enough. Unfortunately, Galerius' account just sort of stops after that, leaving a lot of questions unanswered. What became of him and the other people who lived here? What happened to all the golden statues? And did this mysterious oracle single-handedly undo the curse that had terrorized people for hundreds of years?
Dicho era yo. Me parece un poco exagerado. Esos romanos están locos.
What? Oh, I see. For a moment there I thought you were serious. Anyway, I think I found a way out through the aqueduct that brought water into the city. Follow me.
Estoy justo detrás de ti. Vale. Bueno, pues este es el final, evidentemente, el super final total. Sí. Este es el final. No sé... Hay dos finales más. No sé dónde.
I'm gonna pause here for a moment and make sure nobody else has ever lured into this temple. You go on ahead. I'll be there soon.
Vale, pues ya está. Pedazo de... Espero que no se me pete, porque llevo 3 horas. Oye, pero la última parte, cuando hemos estado hablando con el alienígena, con Plutón, vaya tela. O sea, ahí se nos ha ido media hora larga, ¿eh?
You're back, but you're alone. Does that mean you didn't find Al? Ah, what a relief. Thank you. Why don't you tell me what you discovered?
He descubierto que no eres quien dijiste. Recuerdo haberte conocido hace 2000 años.
Ah, I see. I thought you might. Well, now you know. I suppose you have questions.
¿Quién eres? Bueno,
You can just call me Charon, if you like. I am sorry I was not completely honest with you when we first met. I do not enjoy deceiving people. Believe me, I do not. But I have learned, from 5,000 years of experience, that most people find comfort in familiarity, in gradual change, and coming to see the truth in their own time. That you died, of course. You were dead when I brought you here. My role, as the servant of the god of the underworld, has
Vale, esto es. Cómo he muerto.
Most
Vale,
ask
esto
yourself
no lo había dicho ya. Sí, quiero saberlo.
as you wish.
Te
You were
asesinaron.
exploring it.
Este ya no lo habían dicho
Unfortunately,
antes.
a nearby hiker saw the scuffle break out,
No lo dijeron en una
and
partida
leapt
anterior,
to your
evidentemente.
aid, trying to help you recover your bounty. You both fought. There was nothing. He died instant. That man's name. You were each in possession of a sacred coin.
Plutón dijo que mi moneda y la de Al eran las últimas que existían. ¿Eso qué te dice?
It means I am now bereft of purpose. There is nobody else to ferry here. Nobody to keep you company. After 5,000 years, the underworld has finally run its course. Perhaps you have heard the tales of the Greeks and Romans bearing
Las
their dead
monedas,
with a
vale,
coin
vale.
in their
Esto también no lo
mouths.
dijo
Well,
otra vez.
those stories contain
No vale cualquier
along my
moneda.
orders.
Mis órdenes eran simples. Cuando murió una persona, tal, tal, tal. Sí, Plutón dijo que mi moneda era la última de la arte. ¿Eso qué te dice?
It means I am now bereft of purpose. There is nobody else to.
Vale, puedes devolvernos a la tierra de los
I
vivos.
see no point in keeping you here. But I have to ask one thing. That you keep this to yourself.
Look! Here comes Al now. Al! It's so good to see you. You were gone so long I thought I'd never see you again.
Kinda lost track of time in there. You wouldn't believe what we found. The ruins of a long-forgotten city. And there was a tablet describing an oracle who confronted a god and undid an ancient curse.
Sounds like quite a story. And I look forward to hearing all about it. But you two look exhausted. Why don't you hop in my boat and rest while I ferry you back to civilization?
Sounds good to me.
And you? Are you ready to go home?
Bueno, pues ya está. Ahora sí.